everyone. Welcome to SEC Stuff. I'm Sierra alongside Molly, and we are here to break down the Texas versus Florida game. Molly and I were talking before we started this show, and we both kind of expected Florida and Texas to have their crap together by now, but they seem like they don't. Molly, how are you looking forward to this game, or are you even looking forward to this game?
Um, I'm looking forward to this game as a Texas fan just because I think it's the first start. It's really starting to feel like football for me. And I think it's the first start of some heavy weeks coming up for Texas. And I think this is going to be the game that kind of shows us how Arch is going to handle things, how this new offensive line is going to handle things. In the next few weeks, we've got, Florida. And then the next 5 weeks after that, it's pretty much back to back, pretty tough games. However, preseason, I really predicted Florida and Texas to be in that top 5, top 3 slot the entire season, and that has just not been happening. Texas is obviously working on a 3-1 record, while Florida is working on a 1-3 record. So I think statistically, yes, Texas is favored, but I do think this is an equally equipped game for both teams.
Florida has a rough schedule coming up too. They play Texas A&M, and then they'll host Mississippi State, who is a lot better than what we thought, and then they'll go to Jacksonville for the Florida Georgia matchup. But before this season, I would have thought this matchup would have been just as big as Georgia Alabama. But now it's kind of people are like, is the swamp going to be quiet? Like, I don't know. But I'm really excited to see how Arch Manning plays in his first SEC road start of the season, because he even said in his recent press conference, Arch Manning said that his uncles Eli and Peyton said playing in the swamp is the real deal, and it absolutely gets loud. It's still hot down there in Gainesville, so it's humid. The fans are rowdy, even though people are like, "Oh, the Gators stink. We need to fire Billy Napier," which I all agree with. But how often does Florida get to play Texas? Well, now they get to play them a lot more. But before this, Florida and Texas did not play in the swamp. So it's two big brands going at it, and I think fans will be excited either way.
Yeah, and I think Texas has some strengths here. I think they've been a little bit more consistent with their overall form, and they do have some momentum coming off of these last few wins. I mean, obviously, these last few wins were very cupcake wins, and I do think that may have helped Arch kind of ease his way into this SEC play. However, we also have some coaching stability here, and game planning and big sports should technically favor Texas. However, there are some weak spots for Texas, things, like offensive inconsistency. We've been seeing that since the start of the season, especially against stronger defensive opponents like Ohio State. However, if Florida can force turnovers or disrupt the rhythm of Texas, especially once they get in that rhythm, it's really easy for Texas to be shaken up. So if Florida can, force their turnovers and disrupt that rhythm, I think this could be a close game for both teams.
I think this is going to be a low scoring game just because the defense is the shining moment for each of these teams. Florida also, they put up a fight against Miami. They didn't win, obviously, because the offense held them back, but the defense kept them in it. And my only concern with Texas, really, well, my concern with Texas when it comes to the offense, is obviously the inconsistencies of Arch Manning, but also Texas has really struggled in the red zone lately. They're 110th in the FBS when it comes to that. So that is something that Florida needs to absolutely capitalize off, especially when it comes to their defensive line, who has made some strides over the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Florida has some strengths here. Like I do just want to point out some notes that I have. They're playing with absolute desperation. Like Florida has had a rough year so far, and I really think that they might pull off something just absolutely uncharacteristic for them. However, they're at home. This is a home game. They're deep in the swamp. I think that energy from that crowd could give them a huge advantage for this. However, Florida has weaknesses just like Texas here. Their quarterback, DJ Lagway, has struggled this season with interceptions and limited consistency. So is Arch. We're looking at two quarterbacks that one is coming off an injury. We've got Arch who's really just being a starter QB. So we're looking at two very similar statistic quarterbacks, in my opinion. Florida's defense and offense have both shown vulnerability versus high caliber teams the last few weeks. But like I said, I think if Florida can keep Texas shaky, I don't see this being a problem for Florida. And especially in that home game, there's something about the local Gators. It's just different.
Yes, absolutely. The Swamp is such a fun place. If you guys have been, you've got to go. Florida also has a star freshman wide receiver coming back in Dallas Wilson. He played in the spring game and looked extremely well, and that's just another target that DJ Lagway could utilize because he needs to take care of the football a lot better because he's thrown more interceptions than touchdowns this year, and that is not good. Florida also needs to avoid third downs because they are 123rd in the country when it comes to third down conversions. And Texas's defense is one of the best in the nation when it comes to their third down defense. So that's something that Florida absolutely has to poke a hole through. And Texas's run defense is also very strong. Florida has really lacked in their run game. I have been very vocal about wanting to see Billy Napier put the ball more in Jaden Ball's hands, the star running back for Florida. He is absolutely like a bowling ball. He can run through everyone. This Texas defense will definitely challenge him, but I think even just giving him the chance will take off a lot of pressure from DJ Lagway, who just hasn't felt comfortable as of lately. He was seen in a boot pretty recently, and he missed a lot of spring ball and fall camp because of injuries. And so DJ Lagway is just playing like a quarterback that just hasn't had the experience. And well, Texas, time to wake up.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, something that we learned from the Texas Ohio State game week 1 was that we're looking at literally the two best defenses in the country. And I do think Texas has just set themselves up for success with the defense, but there's so many holes in the offensive side that does make me a little bit nervous. However, comparing the two here, I obviously am going to favor Texas just as a fan, but just looking at the stats, I have to favor Texas just because I don't see Florida being able to poke holes. We'll see. Something completely uncharacteristic could happen. I don't know. How are you feeling as an actual Florida fan though going into this game?
I'm leaning more Texas here, but I still am not sure how Arch Manning will react to just playing in the swamp. Coach Sarkisian did say that, they didn't really flinch too much when they played at Ohio State. Obviously, they lost, but the crowd wasn't the reason why they lost. They weren't overwhelmed because of the crowd. So that I'm leaning more Texas, but anything could happen. I just think Texas has the better defense. Florida's defense is not that bad, but Texas's defense is literally elite. And I think defense is going to be the key here. But with Texas, they've got to also score first. They're 20-1 in the last 21 games where they've scored first. So Texas has to really just, be aggressive and get it done quickly because when Florida's behind, they don't really seem to come back from it.
Yeah. Well, and I think, like I was even saying, like Texas, one of I think the biggest faults that they have, and this is not just a Manning issue. This was last year's with Ewers. It's been a Texas issue for a long time. The traditional saying is the Texas chokes, which is true because I feel like as soon as, let's say, they are ahead, somebody starts to kind of crack under the pressure, it ultimately just falls apart. Like the whole game falls apart. And so I think that would be an area of weakness that Florida could kind of try to start poking around, is just to shake up Texas. Um, but I don't know. I think as a Texas fan, I obviously I love them, and I hope Arch has such a good game because I want him to step into the role of being the Texas QB1. Like at the end of the day, this is probably the best team that you could be a quarterback for. And ultimately, even he said it, he has to play better. Like he has to be better. He has to be a little bit more on point here and show up. And so this is a slippery slope, but I do see this being a close game. Do you have a score in mind that you're thinking?
I think it's going to be a low scoring game. I would say 14. Hold on. I'm thinking. Like, I could see it being like 10-7 or something, like something crazy low. Just because these are two really good defenses, or it could be a shootout. Who knows? Anytime I say I think a game is going to be a low scoring game, the offenses decide to come alive. Also, with Texas, Quintravion Wisener could possibly be making a return. their star running back, Coach Sarkisian alluded to that a little bit, saying it's possible. Of course, he's not going to tell us straight up he's going to be there, like duh. But I think he could also be a real key to helping out this Texas offense because he's been out for a few weeks now, and maybe to just again, like kind of like Ball could be with DJ Lagway, Weisner could be like that with Arch Manning and just relieve some of that pressure because these are both two young quarterbacks that are still getting their footing in the SEC. And everyone, of course, have been so critical of both of them. But start playing in the SEC is not easy, and I think these guys are just really just getting used to it. And I think, like you said, for Texas fans, football season is starting to feel like it's finally here. And I think once Texas gets in that rhythm with those non-cupcake teams and getting real competitive, I think Arch will feel his footing more.
I have this at a low score as well. I think to me, I'm gonna say 10 to 14 Texas. Um, I could see Texas defense letting, a touchdown or 2 slide maybe. We'll have to see, but I do like the idea that they're on the road this week because I feel like Texas actually does play better on the road. Just even from last year, looking at their calendar, I do think that they have good road wins. But I'm also excited to see how they handle the energy of the swamp because it's different. Like Ohio State was really aggressive fan base wise, and they're in they live rent free down in our comments on YouTube. So uh, the Buckeyes are just like, oh, there's something else. Um, but I do think the swamp people are a little different, so we'll have to see how they handle that. Um, but once again, these are two teams over the summer. I could have sworn we're going to be top in the
Playoff
top 3 to 5.
contenders. Yeah.
Yes, like national contenders. I was like, I bet you this is Florida's year. If it's not Texas, I bet it's Florida because I felt like Georgia kind of has had their time to shine. And so for the SEC, I was predicting that it was going to be a Florida or Texas year. So watching them to play after kind of my expectations have completely drastically shifted. I'm excited to watch this game. Like I think it's probably going to be the one of the better games of the weekend. And they're not quite rivals, but I feel like this could potentially be a future rival game.
Yeah, kind of like how Georgia Texas feels like a rivalry that's being established, and it depends when you throw out the word rival, I feel like it's kind of a trigger word for a lot of fans because some people are like they're not our rival. Like if you look at Arkansas fans and Mizzou fans, if you say, "Oh, the Mizzou Arkansas rivalry game," you will get Arkansas fans coming at you with a pitchfork. And I can say that because I live in Arkansas. But yeah, they're like, "Mizzou is not our rival." I'm like, "Well, you talk enough crap about them, so I think they are your rival." But
Yeah.
yeah.
Actually, they absolutely are. I feel like, I mean, Texas, their biggest rival has to be OU. Just like that's a traditional rivalry, though.
Mhm.
Like there are years where it's really not a rival. You're looking at it, you're like, actually, is this a rival? Because OU sucks. But I do think this could potentially in the future be a cool rival. I think between Florida and Texas, the swamp versus the ritzy South. You know what I'm saying?
Or
Like
just like a battle of, you know, football talent, honestly, because I hear these arguments all the time. I don't know if anyone else sees these, but people are like, what's the best state for athletes? Is it Florida? Is it Texas? Or is it California? Because in any sport, softball, like I went to the University of Florida, there were so many girls from Southern California on our roster. And it's like that with any SEC school. I mean, Oxford, there's a tons of California kids on the women's softball team because it's an extremely talented state. Same with Texas. There's a bunch of Texas girls that played softball at Florida. So it's kind of like they're very large populous states and also they're in warm weather climates and those are where the best athletes. So Florida could very much be this could be a very much a game that's also battling for recruiting. DJ Lagway himself is from the state of Texas. So Florida is not afraid to recruit those Texas kids. They tend to stay in the state of Florida just because there's so many hotbed schools that have produced elite athletes every year that Florida kind of just like, hey, we don't need to go far to recruit this kid. But I mean, Texas, they've got a bunch of kids out there, but I'm sure they also dip into Florida to recruit kids out there, and they all fight with each other with these top blue chip recruits. So I think that this is important for that too.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be such a good weekend. I'm excited.
Well, guys, Florida and Texas will go at it in Gainesville this Saturday at 3:30 Eastern. Who do you think's winning this game? Let us know in the comments, and thank you so much for watching SEC Stuff. We'll see you next time.